transmission is increasing, as reflected in the fact.
Federal government retains current phase of national response to COVID-19 for another 4 weeks as PTF expresses concern over increase in community transmission, lack of enforcement and non-compliance with established protocols.
In the room we used to be about 18, but now 4 to each room. You have your bunk, you have your own bed space, you have where so nothing should concern you with the other member of the room.
Federal government to survey and enforce COVID-19 safety protocols in all WAEC centers in Nigeria.
Steps have been taken by some state governments in the Northeast region to ensure the return of civilians back to their towns, villages and communities.
In synergy between Nigerian Army and Borno State government on counterinsurgency attributed to the relative peace now in the area. Good evening. Welcome to Network News on NTA. I'm Cyril Stober in Abuja, and I'll be joined by Michael Olaleye in our studio in Lagos and Kemi Akinwande in Ibadan. The federal government has retained the current phase 2 of the ease lockdown for another 4 weeks with slight modifications to the existing guidelines. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, says this follows President Buhari's approval of the 6th interim report and recommendations of the task force. Mitairi Ipen reports.
Although the second phase of the eased lockdown suffered non-compliance and poor enforcement of PTF guidelines in the states, the task force modified the existing guidelines with considerations for movement, industry and labor, as well as community activities. The modifications include granting permission to civil servants from grade level 12 and above to resume full working hours, Mondays to Fridays, permission to exiting classes to resume ahead of examinations, approval to the Ministry of Aviation to prepare for reopening of international flights in a matter of weeks, and reopening of recreation parks only for supervised physical exercise and not for social gatherings. The retained restrictions include the nationwide curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m., bars, cinemas, and nightclubs to remain closed, continued ban on mass gatherings, while daycare and primary schools are to remain closed except for pupils taking exams in line with established guidelines and protocols.
We have made recommendations to the aviation industry to commence the process for opening international airports, provided all existing international and local prevention guidelines on COVID-19 are in place. We encourage work at home policy for civil/public servants below the grade level of 12. However, while primary schools must remain closed, registered pupils may proceed to take the National Common Entrance as soon as it is feasible, provided there is compliance with issued non-pharmaceutical guidelines. For secondary and tertiary institutions, just to clarify, these remain closed. However, we have made arrangements for exiting or graduating students in their final years of secondary school to resume and partake in exams in line with guidelines issued by the Federal Ministry of Education. Restriction is removed on outdoor communal non-contact sports and the use of recreational parks for supervised physical exercise, not for social interactions, but supervised physical exercise.
The Presidential Task Force reached the conclusion that for Nigeria, it is important to ensure that restrictions are not completely relaxed in order to control and abate further community transmission.
As restrictions are being gradually eased, the PTF, however, warns that skepticism about COVID-19 could further complicate the pandemic. Hence, state governments and communities are urged to own the response and educate citizens. In Abuja, Mitairi Ipen, NTA News.
And still on the pandemic, 8 COVID-19 patients die in Indian hospital fire as Germany tightens testing regime owing to daily rise of above 1,000 coronavirus cases. Joyce Ometu has an update on the pandemic.
For 5 consecutive days, Nigeria has continued to record daily coronavirus infections below 500. On Wednesday, 457 cases and 17 deaths were reported by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control. The latest figure brings the total number of cases in the country to 44,890. Fatality figure stands at 927, while 32,165 recoveries have been recorded. Meanwhile, a search team of health experts from the World Health Organization are in Johannesburg, South Africa, to bolster the country's response to COVID-19. WHO is expanding support to countries experiencing significant surge in infections. Now, this is coming as cases on the continent near 1 million. 678,787 patients recovered, while 21,700 persons have died. Elsewhere in the world, a coronavirus test will be mandatory for all arrivals to Germany from Saturday. The country's health minister, Jens Spahn, made the announcement on Thursday after Germany reported 1,045 new coronavirus infections, the first daily jump above 1,000 cases in 3 months. In the meantime, at least 8 coronavirus patients have died in a fire that broke out Thursday in an intensive care unit at a hospital in India. Consequently, 35 other COVID-19 patients have been moved to other hospitals. An investigation has been launched to find out the cause of the fire. As at 6 p.m., record by Worldometer revealed that coronavirus cases have exceeded 19 million globally. Unfortunately, 713,408 persons have died, while 12,254,966 have recovered. And that's a global update on COVID-19. I am Joyce Ometu.
And on the domestic front, the confirmation of 4 coronavirus deaths in Taraba State by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has sent a wave of panic through residents, with many saying it's a wake-up call for the citizens. Joseph Ortston reports that the state government has also allotted more funds to the management of the disease.
Report of Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirming 4 deaths in the state has sent a wave of panic among many.
Especially where the death has never been recorded before. It's going to be a awakening. So people that do not believe about the pandemic will be aware that yes, this thing is real.
Really, if we are recording 4 deaths now in Taraba, it's not a joke then.
The devastating effect of coronavirus pandemic on socio-economic and health has prompted the state government to invest more in management of the disease, hoping that the state will record less cases and, if possible, stop the spread. It has revealed its 2020 budget, slashing funds from other sectors and channeling them to the fight against COVID-19.
General economic sector of Taraba State, 2020 revised budget, about 30% of that sector has been allocated to COVID-19 pandemic-related programs and projects.
Records from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control shows that Taraba State has 72 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 55 persons have been discharged. In Jalingo, Joseph Sound Otsen, NTA News.
And the Nigeria Governors Forum, in the meantime, is adopting far-reaching measures to ensure schools comply with COVID-19 safety protocols for returning students preparing for exiting examinations. This was part of the resolutions at the 14th teleconference on COVID-19 to mitigate the impact of the pandemic on the country. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports.
Governors Forum is putting finishing touches across schools in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education to ensure safety of exiting students and contain the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. The forum is concerned about the continued impasse between state governments and resident doctors and advised states to close ranks in resolving the pressing issues in the interest of the nation's health sector. The 36 state governors condemned the attack on Borno State Governor's convoy and promised to present its position to the presidency for further review of the security situation in the country. The NGF engaged the National Economic Council over the suspension of counterpart requirement to access the Universal Basic Education Fund and other national intervention budgets and statutory levies. The forum received update from Aliko Dangote on behalf of Coalition Against COVID-19 on the flag off and distribution of palliatives to Borno, Edo, Enugu and Kano states and other parts of the country to reach more vulnerable population. The annual assessment performance for states' financial transparency, accountability and sustainability to drive implementation components for 2019 was also deliberated upon. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
And as schools resume ahead of the commencement of WAEC examinations, the federal government is activating environmental health practice volunteer desks for surveillance and enforcement of COVID-19 safety protocols in all 19,000 WAEC centers across the nation. This is in addition to the decontamination of federal government colleges in Nigeria. Onengie Fineface reports.
Jonah Onoiten and Mesolma Kalu, students of Federal Science and Technical College, Orozo, are in for a big surprise. Social distancing, even in the hostel.
You know, in the hostel, as a boarding school, we tend to mix because of how long we have missed our friends. But it has gotten to the extent that they have grouped us 4-4 in each room. In the room, we used to be about 18, but now 4-4 to each room. You have your bunk, you have your own bed space, you have so nothing should concern you with the other member of the room.
We are always asked to wash our hands, carry our pocket hand sanitizer. Carry your pocket hand sanitizer everywhere you go. In our hostels, before you enter the hostels, you'll see a bath of water and sanitizer and soap.
Their newly acquired lifestyle of regular hand washing, use of face mask, and use of hand sanitizers are all measures being implemented by schools as they receive students preparatory to the WAEC examinations.
We've mapped out strategies on how they will ensure compliance by both students and staff so that we can have a safe environment.
On its part, the federal government continues to decontaminate schools. The Ministry of Environment has also engaged 40,000 volunteers to mount surveillance in all WAEC centers to implement compliance with COVID-19 protocols.
Ministry of Environment and also the council that regulate environmental health are going to put up a monitoring committee where we are going to deploy a technology using ATP machines so that we can be able to detect the efficacy of this decontamination chemicals that has been used in the schools.
Mechanisms for private sector participation has been put in place to ensure the safety of all students in the country. In Abuja, Onengie Fineface, NTA News.
Now beaten politics. Now 17 lawmakers of the Edo State House of Assembly, among them the 14 members whose seats were earlier declared vacant, have impeached the Speaker of the Assembly, Frank Okie, and Deputy Speaker Roland Asoro. Ogochukwuka Ona reports that this was after the inauguration of the 14 members at an emergency plenary at a private location in Benin. Victor Edoro was sworn in as the new Speaker of the House.
The impeachment notice was signed by the 17 members present at the location. This was after Emmanuel Agbaje, representing Akoko Edo 2 constituency, was nominated as Speaker pro tem.
We, the undersigned members of Edo State House of Assembly, hereby move for the impeachment of the Speaker, Right Honorable Frank Okie, and Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Roland Asoro, representing ASAM Northeast 1 and Orion 2 constituencies, respectively, for gross misconduct, high-handedness, and continued breach of the relevant sections of the House rules and the Constitution
Victor Edoro, representing Esan Central, took the oath of office and allegiance, presided over by the Deputy Clerk of the House, Samuel Fezokai. This development follows a motion moved by Washington Osifu, representing Nwonde constituency, and seconded by Kingsley Agabi, representing Esako East constituency. Emmanuel Agbaje, representing Akoko Edo 2 constituency, was nominated as Deputy Speaker in a motion moved by Chris Okaigbe, representing Oredo West, and seconded by Michael Ohio Ezomo, representing Owan West constituency. In his acceptance speech, the Speaker, Victor Edoro, appreciated the people of Edo for their support since the struggle after the election in 2019, especially the APC, Adams Oshomole, and the federal government. He wants all to be united in moving the state forward. He says the House is not keen on impeachment of any member of the executive.
I want to also congratulate His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Edo State, Mr. Godwin Nogagaze Obaseki. We have resolved to give him the necessary cooperation insofar as Edo State to move forward.
Sitting has been adjourned till 7th August. 24 members of the House were elected last year, but only 9 members were inaugurated on July 17. The latest development in the state legislature follows the declaration of support for the APC candidate, Pastor Sageze Yamu, by 4 members of the Assembly, including the Deputy Speaker, Yekini Daye. He was, however, impeached Wednesday and replaced by Roland Asoro. In Benin, Ogochkuka Ona, NTA News.
And turning to some security matters now, residents of Maiduguri have commended the synergy between the Nigerian military and the Borno state government in the counter-insurgency war, which led to the relative peace being enjoyed, urging it to continue now that preparations are underway for the return of IDPs to their communities. Maimuna Garba reports.
Peace recently being enjoyed by Borno citizenry is as a result of the renewed approach toward handling security issues both on the part of the military as well as Borno state government in the ongoing counter-insurgency operations. People of the Northeast, particularly those in Borno state, will not forget how at the onset of the Buhari administration, relative peace was restored and communities captured by Boko Haram insurgents were liberated by the Nigerian military.
So I think there is a very good cordiality between the government and the military. And in part of the military, we have seen a lot of success stories in that regard.
The peace we are witnessing today, generally speaking, we have not witnessed it about 5-6 years ago. So I think they are doing very well, despite the fact that there are challenges here and there.
And I think we need to appreciate the army. The governor has injected massively on ensuring there's peace and security.
This was what necessitated the reconstruction and resettlement process of Borno state government, supported by the federal government and other donor agencies, both national and international, with Governor Babagana Umara Zulum as the pioneer commissioner of the ministry purposely created then to reconstruct, rehabilitate and resettle displaced persons.
You are also to note that steps have been taken by some state governments in the Northeast region to ensure the return of civilians back to their towns, villages and communities. You must take adequate steps to ensure good civil-military relations with the locals in order to win their hearts and minds.
Similarly, Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Umara Zulum is not relenting in ensuring lasting peace is restored to the state, as issue of security remains his priority, considering the tremendous support he has been rendering to the military in its quest to end the insurgency war.
This administration under my leadership will continue to support you. I'm aware of your situation on ground. Despite the support that the Nigerian military is giving to you, we are here to support you, and we shall continue to support you.
Apart from donating vehicles and other logistics to the military, Professor Zulum also established the Rapid Response Squad to assist the military in strengthening security in Borno. Governor Zulum's frequent visits to local government areas is to ensure restoration of civil authorities, as already some emirs have relocated to their emirates and socio-economic activities are thriving, hence the reopening of some roads in northern Borno, whose residents are still in IDP camps in Maiduguri, to pave way for their return to their localities. In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
As the highest military training institution for senior officers, The National Defense College has strategic courses in asymmetric warfare and peacekeeping, among others. But as course 28 participants graduate, the fellows are being charged to change tactics to tackle the current wave of insecurity. Defense correspondent Najatu Tijani reports from the graduation venue.
They entered as course participants and are now fellows of one of the most prestigious military institutions in Africa. They scale through various advanced military tactics aimed at keeping the peace and securing their various countries in line with global best practices. But to whom much is given, much is expected.
Let me state that your efforts squarely fit in with the vision of government to continuously build national institutions to overcome contemporary challenges and promote nation building, security, and development.
In a complex security environment, the requirement to solve it is also multidisciplinary. All of a nation approach, all agencies working together, and that reflects in the composition of this course.
Beyond the graduation, the college is a gold mine of military minds and intelligence strategically trained in critical thinking, whose expertise will be needed at this critical time when the president has called for an overhaul of the security architecture in the country. In the meantime, these fellows will have to apply the advanced skills and knowledge gained sooner rather than later to keep improving national security. Najatu Tijani, NTA News.
You're watching the news at 9.
Network News, breaking the news for over 40 years.
Thanks for staying with us. President Muhammadu Buhari has condoled with President Michel Aoun and the people of Lebanon over the massive explosions that rocked Beirut, the capital city, on Tuesday, leaving 137 dead, over 5,000 wounded, and more than 300,000 displaced. The president, in a condolence message, also extended the sympathy of the government to the large community of Lebanese in Nigeria, praying that God will rest the souls of the dead, comfort the grieving, and grant succor to the wounded and displaced. Describing the explosions suspected to be caused by tons of ammonium nitrate stored in a warehouse as a tragedy of monumental proportions, President Buhari pledged the solidarity and brotherhood of Nigeria to Lebanon at this period of their travails. The House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts has written to the Presidency to compel the Central Bank of Nigeria and other agencies to appear before it within 7 days to answer questions surrounding sales of government-landed property. Chairman of the committee, Walioke, directed the clerk to forward a letter to that effect after 6 out of 9 agencies invited to appear before it failed to honor the invitation. John Yaku has the details.
The agencies are the Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Nigerian Ports Authority, Bureau of Public Enterprise, National Emergency Management Agency, and the National OSP Detection Agency. They are to brief the committee on revenues generated through the sale of government-landed properties as queried by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation.
We insist that these agencies we have listed to appear before us and make submissions so that we can really understand PIC holistically. Because if we are taking PIC now, and in their submission, some agencies also participated in the sale of assets, and they are not, the Auditor General, and they have not appeared, or they refuse to appear to take a position, then how would you be able to appreciate the totality of what PIC is saying?
Those that appeared were the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company, and the Presidential Implementation Committee on the Sale of Government-Landed Property. In Abuja, John Yaku, NTA News.
And to strengthen the transparency in the election result management system, INEC has introduced a dedicated public portal, the INEC Result Viewing, that will enable Nigerians to view polling unit results in real time as the voting ends on election day. A statement by the INEC National Commissioner for Information, Festus Okoye, indicates that this is to ensure transparency and avoid destruction of results at polling units by political parties. However, this does not constitute electronic collation of results, and the Commission shall retain, as provided by law, a manual process of completion of relevant result sheets and their upward collation until the final results are determined. This innovation will commence from the Nasarawa Central State constituency by-election in Nasarawa State, scheduled for Saturday, the 8th of August. Thereafter, it will be extended to the Edo and Ondo governorship elections, as well as all subsequent elections. The federal government is assessing performance of all ministries, departments and agencies for improved service delivery in line with the open governance policy. The exercise being conducted by the Bureau of Public Service Reforms has so far assessed 50 agencies of government. Joshua Ujito reports.
Established in 2006 to drive the electricity power sector reform, the Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company Limited administered, among others, stranded debts and liabilities of the defunct Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, in the pre- and post-privatization era. 14 years into its operation, which saved 92 billion naira for the federal government, the company subjects itself to self-assessment conducted by the Bureau for Public Service Reforms. Strengths and weaknesses of the company were identified, and Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company Limited makes it to the Hall of Fame with a gold level award for outstanding performance.
The recommendations in this report will contribute towards making your agency one of the best in the country and a pocket of excellence that will lead the Nigerian public service to be among the first 20 by the year 2025.
The power sector is on the path of achieving its goal.
We developed a model, and that model we refer to it as the TVH, the Triangular Verification Model. So that model we put in place to enable us conduct due diligence on the inherited debts.
With recommendations by the Bureau for Public Service Reforms for a board to be constituted for the company, as well as anti-corruption policy instituted, there are expectations that the performance of the Nigeria Electricity Liability Management Company Limited will translate to improved power supply in the country. In Abuja, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
The Cross River State government is appealing to leaders in northern Nigeria to support the realization of its superhighway and Bakassi deep sea port projects, which will serve as the fastest route to exporting the abundant solid mineral resources in the north. Governor Ben Ayade stated this while addressing newsmen in Calabar. Paul Abel reports.
Northern Nigeria is blessed with arable land for agriculture and with lots of solid mineral resources in the country, and if well harnessed, Nigeria will eliminate extreme poverty obvious in parts of the country. The belief here is that for the North to get the best from these resources, there must be a direct connection and access to a maritime domain, and that is where the 245-kilometer superhighway and Bakassi deep sea port come in. The governor emphasized that the strength of the Naira will continue to depreciate except Nigeria becomes an export-oriented country and recalibrates the value of the Naira. He also used the opportunity to proclaim a new policy for all Cross River State indigents who will be completing the NYSC scheme with no immediate employment to be engaged under the Agricultural Beneficiary Program of the state. In Calabar, Paul Abel, NTA News.
The Federal Ministry of Works has begun work on portions of Bauchi-Kano Road washed away by heavy downpour a few days ago. Muazu Hassan reports.
The rain, which lasted for several hours on that fateful night, cut down a portion of the Bauchi-Kano Road in Sangendiria village of Ningi local government area of Bauchi State. Based on the economic importance of the road to the people of the two states, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing quickly responded to the plight of motorists plying the road.
We are going to construct another retaining wall in order to be able to safeguard the embankment from future occurrence of this type of nature.
The incident, according to the people of the area, claimed the life of one person, with one still missing. In Bauchi, Moaz Hassan, NTA News.
Now, as the rainy season stabilizes, farmers in Adamawa State are said to be confronted with challenges in accessing farm inputs and implements, more especially now that coronavirus has affected every part of the nation's economy. Some farmers who spoke to NTA News were receiving free fertilizer shared by the senator representing Adamawa Central, Aishatu Ahmed Minani, said for the country to attain self-sufficiency in food production, farm inputs and implements must be available. Bilkisu Abubakar takes up the report from here.
Outbreak of coronavirus in Nigeria, farmers, especially rural dwellers in Adamawa, are being confronted with challenges of hiking price of farming inputs, especially fertilizer, which is one among the basic needs of farming activities. The distribution of 12 trailer loads of fertilizer to peasant farmers in the state by the senator representing Adamawa Central Zone brought a relief to many farmers.
If some of the senators and House of Representatives can also do what she is doing now, actually, after the COVID-19, we think that food will be available.
The Chairman Senate Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Aisha Tudahiru Ahmad Binani, says each local government in her constituency will receive 600 bucks, while the remaining 14 local governments in southern and northern senatorial districts will get 300 bucks of the fertilizer each, and the gesture will be extended to traditional rulers and other stakeholders.
Free fertilizer to our farmer is a personal donation or rather assistance. I would rather say to our people in this difficult time, it is not a constituency project.
The donation is part of the effort of the senator to boost food production, which is in line with Buhari-led administration policies and programs. In Yola, Bilkisu Abubakar, NTA News.
Time now to head to Lagos, where Michael Olale is waiting with more reports. Hello, Michael.
Cyril, as the partial closure of the third mainland bridge continues, water transportation is witnessing an upsurge in operations as more passengers are making use of this mode of transportation to navigate the ever-busy Lagos roads. Dotun Ogunyemi has the reports.
Don't mistake this for a marketplace. The busy nature of this jetty located at CMS is a reflection of increased passenger activities across all jetties in Lagos since the commencement of repair works on the third mainland bridge. Shobo Abayomi has found a new love commuting on water.
A trip that would normally take me 4 or 5 hours, and now that the third mainland bridge is closed, that might even take more than 4 or 5 hours. But now I can actually get to my destination in 1 hour 30 minutes, less than 1 hour 30 minutes.
Abayomi is one of many passengers who would like to see better development in this sector. However, operators like Ayomikun are counting their gains, but the boom comes with its own challenges.
What we discovered along the line was that some operators are not actually captured in our nets as a member of our association. That's a major challenge we are having on our waterways. So we discovered that most of them are the people that actually fall victim of these mishaps sometimes because of they are not being regulated properly, not being informed properly.
Between passenger and operator, what is the regulatory agency saddled with the task of ensuring safety for all doing anew?
Most recalcitrant boat operators are being sanctioned. If you find out that your boat is or not up to standard, you will be prescribed from operating the waterways until you come back for re-inspection.
With a recent incident of boat mishap last week at Kirikiri, which sadly claimed 10 lives. There has been renewed clamor for effective monitoring and enforcement of the inland waterways. In Lagos, Dotun Ogunyemi, NTA News.
Still on transportation, prelude to awarding projects that will boost its mandate of expanding rail infrastructure, the Nigerian Railway Corporation is evaluating contract documents in adherence to the Procurement Act. The process was done in compliance with COVID-19 guidelines. Despite the giant stride recorded at using the rail to open up communities for investment opportunities, the federal government is still committed to harnessing the vast potential the rail subsector has to offer. This mandate explains why this meeting is opening up pre-qualification documents as substantiated by bidders for the award of 2020 capital projects in the subsector. The projects under 3 categories covers infrastructure, works and consultancy.
So we have things like maintenance of our locomotives, procurement of spare parts, insurance of some of our new locomotives, and all these things are critical to ensure that we continue to provide the quality service that we are providing to Nigerians.
The exercise is not just a check for the eligibility criteria, but seeks authentication with relevant agencies in compliance with due process.
For instance, the IRR will authenticate through Bureau of Public Procurement and so on and so forth. So, and there are about just over 700 documents we've received today. Normally when we do this, the whole bidders come, but we've put some measures in place to make sure that it's transparent and to make sure that the bidders get a feel for what we are doing at some point.
The fulfillment of this open exercise will translate to more projects, which will improve the quality of lives of Nigerians. Now to legal matters. Nigerian musician Aziz Adesina Fashola, popularly called Naira Marley, and his manager have been arraigned and fined for violating interstate non-essential travel ban under Section 58 of Public Health Law of Lagos State. Andy Daniels has details.
The accused persons, Naira Marley and his manager, Sheyi Awotuga, were arraigned by the Lagos State Police Command at the State Mobile Court, Oshodi, on a 1-count charge of breaching, cessation of movement and interstate travel order placed by the federal government to stem the tide of coronavirus. It should be recalled that on the 13th of June 2020, Naira Marley, alongside his crew, left the shores of Lagos via the Murtala Mohammed International Airport for Abuja, where they performed in an open-air concert. The accused persons pleaded guilty to the charge and were awarded a fine of 100,000 naira each by the presiding magistrate.
Not just the punishment that matters. Once you are convicted, even if it is a fine of 1 million, a fine of 10 naira, the name remains, he is an ex-convict. And that is a big thing on its own.
In Lagos, Annie Daniels, NTA News.
This is NTA Network News. More reports.
And back here in Abuja, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says its attention has been drawn to a misleading video in circulation fabricated by some misguided Nigerian students in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and attendant media reports alleging that the government of Nigeria, particularly the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Embassy of Nigeria in Riyadh, and the Consulate General of Nigeria in Jeddah have deliberately refused to facilitate their evacuation to Nigeria for holidays since the 15th of May 2020. A statement by the spokesperson, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ferdinand Nwoye, says the Nigerian mission in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in line with the federal government guidelines for the evacuation of Nigerian nationals stranded in different parts of the world due to COVID-19, has been engaging relevant host authorities to facilitate the evacuation of Nigerians from the kingdom. It further adds that though the Saudi Airlines fixed 8th July and 1st August 2020, the airline never informed the embassy of the dates or sought for approval of the proposed dates from Nigeria, either through the Embassy of Nigeria in Riyadh or the Consulate General of Nigeria in Jeddah, which is against the spirit of established diplomatic protocols, hence the inability to operate the said flights. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs also wishes to put on record that the embassy officials did not demand any commission or graft from the airlines, as insinuated by those it called the misinformed select Nigerian students. It says the unfortunate allegations by the students are therefore absolutely false and should be disregarded. Let's now link up with Keffi in our Ibadan studio for more on the news. Keffi.
Thank you, Cyril, and welcome to Ibadan. Preparations are in top gear in readiness for SSC, WAEC, and other examinations for exit classes in Oyo State. Shola Wide reports that schools in the state had resumed a month earlier in the bid to ensure success for the students after the long COVID-19 lockdown at home.
Schools in Oyo State resumed academic activities on the 6th of July 2020 ahead of federal government's announcement of nationwide resumption of schools on the 4th of August and the subsequent release of comprehensive schedule for various national examinations for exit classes. Public and private schools in the state have been intensifying coaching of students in terminal classes of senior secondary 3, junior secondary 3 and primary 6 pupils.
We have marked all the benches, the lockers in the class ready for the sitting arrangement of the students.
Classrooms have been arranged in zigzag manner to accommodate at most 20 students per class.
The whole essence of the training was to prepare them for resumption, like I said, and also to teach them how they were to arrange the classroom to ensure social distances in the classroom.
The resumption we monitored throughout the state, I think it shows that people are ready to cooperate with the government in fighting the battle against COVID-19.
Adequate measures have also been put in place to ensure that schools comply with the safety protocols as directed by the authorities. In Ibadan, Shola Wahid, NTA News.
Similarly, ahead of the 2020 West Africa Senior Secondary School Certificate Examination, students in Osun State are now back in school. Correspondent Femi Afarigun tells us more.
We should wash our hands regularly.
After spending months at home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, anxiety on faces of students of Osogbo Grammar School as they brace for the task ahead, West Africa Senior Secondary School Examination.
I'm so happy to be back to school.
We are really prepared. They are ready to teach them.
Despite the measures put in place by the state government to prevent COVID-19 in our school, a science student of Osogbo Government High School, Motilayo Fayoyin, is still not comfortable with the reopening of schools.
The reason why I'm happy is because we'll be able to finish our exams and move on, but the unhappiness is there may be higher because of the COVID-19 cases.
Meanwhile, Osun State government is adopting another strategy for its students.
We are also putting together an arrangement where counselors, guardian and counselors, will go around to talk to them, to prepare them, not only academically, but also to get them to calm down, to be ready emotionally, mentally, and psychologically.
For Motilayo and over 13,000 students spread across 188 schools in Osun State writing the exams, their fate of not contracting the virus lies with observing the guidelines and their teachers ensuring strict adherence to the regulations. In Osogbo, Femi Afariogun, NTA News.
And that's it from Ibadan. More reports in Abuja with Cyril.
Thank you, Kemi. The Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunniyi Mamora, has reaffirmed the federal government's determination in making Nigeria the biggest medical tourist destination in Africa. He stated this while receiving the separated conjoined twins at the Federal Medical Center, Keffi. Suraj Abdullahi has the details.
Conjoined twins were brought to the Federal Medical Center, Keffi, some months ago, sharing the same liver based on the available information from the center. Having critically examined the conjoined, the center vowed to carry out surgical operation to separate the twins. After 9 hours of operation, leader of the medical team, Dr. Charles So, described the procedure as a huge success.
It's one of the most challenging things we would ever see as it is, but
we rose to the challenge in many ways.
While receiving the separated twins, alongside briefing from the Federal Medical Center, Keffi, Minister of State for Health, Dr. Mamora, applauds the commitment of the center, adding that the huge investment of Buhari's administration in the health sector is not in vain.
Separation of conjoined twins take place mostly in medical practice of the first world countries. But here we are today also announcing an operation carried out by 100%, I repeat, 100% indigenous medical.
From the onset to the last beat of our stitch, there was no single moment of scare.
National State Governor Abdullahi Sule, who also visited the separated twins, pledged continued support to the center to achieve greater feats.
I came in to see it for myself, and I'm happy to see the children very healthy.
FMC Keffi serves as the closest available federal tertiary health facility to FCT that provides service to a very large number of people. From Keffi, Suraj Abdullahi, NTA News.